Well, I serve on the Roseville City Council. I have since 2016. And the Placer County Board of Supervisor position, there was a bunch of mapping things that took place. I actually wasn't following it very closely, but around the holidays, I started getting a lot of calls from people because they changed the map at the last minute that included Western Roseville into District 2. And so I had some thinking to do, and had a team come over and meet with me, and we just talked about the probability of winning. And I really wanted to make sure I was really comfortable taking this new role on, because it's a big job. And I was planning to go back into my businesses full time, but I really felt like I do a really good job of connecting with my constituents. I respond in social media. I get phone calls all the time. I'm out in the community quite often. I try to go to anything I'm invited to if I can get it in my calendar. And I know the community really appreciates that. And at the supervisor level, I think there's a big opportunity there to be able to do that. And so I decided that I was going to get in the race. So I was the last one in of the three, but I think I've got a really good chance of winning this. And it's been exciting getting out in the community and talking. My background is probably it's very strong in the business arena. I started a software company in college. I've always had that on the side of, even when I had a corporate job for many years. And I ran a restaurant in downtown Roseville for 12 years. And that got me involved, learning a lot more about civic projects. And I was president of the Downtown Roseville Merchants for 9 years, and got really involved in revitalizing downtown and working with all the small businesses. And my company, when I went back and got my MBA, my company evolved into a consulting business, and I was helping out other business owners, but the restaurant took a ton of time. But in that process, I started learning more about public leadership, and got on different commissions and committees and working with the chamber. And I really felt like that was a calling, an opportunity to use my background and experience to really try to make a good difference at the elected position. Because not a lot of electeds have a really strong business background. And I think that's a kind of unique perspective. And I think the perspective is a real big thing, and that's made a difference. So probably the biggest thing in District 2, so Western Roseville, the whole city of Lincoln, and then a bunch of rural area all the way up to Sheridan, goes almost up to Auburn. And we just have unprecedented growth. There is 10 to 15 years of planned growth still coming in this district. It's a huge amount of growth. There's development happening everywhere. And so that's probably the biggest issue. It's going to change our district quite a bit. And so there's a lot of challenges with that. You know, we've already got major traffic issues on Highway 65 and many other roads. Trying to protect our rural areas, trying to grow wisely. There's a huge issue about the county doing development instead of annexing into the cities and let the city doing the development, or the landowners do development within a city jurisdiction. It does make a huge difference, because when the county does development on the border of a city, there's nothing that helps the city out. There's no tax share or anything. And so, like, if they build a shopping center on the border of a city, they're competing with the city. And so if our residents go buy something, and the residents don't know where the boundaries are, they don't understand, but not a penny's coming back to even help their own city. And that economic growth is really important, because those dollars from property tax and sales tax, that's what supports your police and fire and your parks and you know, just a lot of the quality of life type services. So you want to have a real strong situation. So when the city's doing development, they're sharing taxes with the county, or the county sharing taxes with the city. And so it actually is a partnership, and it works really well. When the county's doing the development, it's not a partnership near as much, and it's a competition thing, and the counties usually aren't as good of developers that way. So that's probably the biggest issue right now. And having the city perspective on it, we don't have anybody at the county level right now that worked for a city before, that's come up from a city council member that has that perspective. And so I think that's going to be a valuable asset on the supervisor level. Other big issues are homelessness. It's getting more and more prevalent. It's growing. It's pretty soon going to be out of hand. We're not going to be able to fix it, but we have a neat opportunity right now to actually possibly fix our problem or take care of most of it. There's challenges with affordability. We're getting a lot of influx of new residents buying all the new homes being built, which is great. But when the county develops, they're not real good about putting in the affordable and workforce housing that we need. And so what happens is it ends up, we put in a bunch of single family homes, for example, that just raises everybody's property value up, and it gets more and more difficult for our workforce to be able to live within our own city. And we already see that, the drastic problems up in Tahoe, where workers can't even afford to live there. And so restaurants can't even stay open during the week. A lot of times they just don't have workers who can do it. And so this is kind of becoming more and more of an issue. Roseville does a good job. We push back. We make sure our developers build in affordable housing in their projects. And the city itself has been putting a lot of funding in to do affordable housing projects. We just approved $7.5 million last week for it. But this is definitely going to be a big challenge with all this development. If we don't get more workforce housing, we're going to get ourselves in a real tough situation. And then another thing that's always difficult in the county is, people come here. When I go around knocking on doors, one of the big reasons that people come to Placer County is we have so much rural open space and trails and just wonderful, beautiful areas. And the more development that happens, it's eating into that. And so I think it's going to be really important that we work on trying to preserve that quality of life and making sure we have a really good plan for our agricultural industry, that we don't let things get become cement jungles anywhere. We got to make sure we keep a lot of these open spaces and just are really smart about how we design our future as we grow. Well, the county has the Department of Health and Human Services. The cities do not have that, so it's a county issue. The city of Roseville, we are pretty good at trying to keep people from going into homelessness. We have a lot of housing vouchers. We do have housing projects, the Main Street apartments, the Lousy apartments down on Vernon Street. We've got more under construction right now and more that we've approved funding for, but those are real expensive. Like the Main Street, I think it was $425,000 a door. That's an expensive project. So the county's done things like they'll buy a 6-bedroom house in the middle of a nice neighborhood, and they'll put 6 people in it. Formerly homeless. And well, that stresses out the community. They don't like that. So far, it's been okay because they've been putting, good quality people in there that are homeless that, that need it, and they're not causing problems in the neighborhood. But if we keep doing that as a solution, eventually we're going to, the cream of the crop won't be available. We're going to get down to where there's some issues going on, and the neighbors really stress about that. It's not a good solution. And the other thing is, when you have all these spatterings of homes and stuff, you don't really have a solid program. There's just too many locations. And so I've looked into this for years. I used to be on the Placer County Homeless Advisory Committee, and back when Marvett did his first study. And I was also with a nonprofit organization that went out and spent a lot of time studying for an actual solution. And the best model that we found nationwide is a campus model, where you basically design a campus that has a lot of permanent supportive housing, some emergency housing. It's housing. People that go in there are not homeless anymore. That's their home. But there's a wraparound program, and the program's really intense. And it's real interesting. When I've worked with the homeless, especially for chronic, it can take 2, 3, or even 4 years for the mentality of a person to get to the point where they believe they're worthy of changing, because they've just been so degraded and they believe they're not worthy, and it's really difficult. So you really need a loving wraparound program that gives them chances, just loves on them, keeps them busy, keeps them in group counseling, has a case manager for each person. There's healthcare right there on the campus. And I know our hospitals would love that, because our homeless have filled up the emergency rooms. The other attribute of many of these campus models is they'll take a section of it and secure it, and they'll do like a 50-bed no barrier shelter. So there's enough housing where you can take most of your residents and house them there so they're no longer homeless. They're in a great program. They have no reason to go hang out in a neighborhood. They have their own home. You know, they're human beings after all. But then with the no barrier shelter, you can actually enforce the no camping regulations. And there's a new rule that's been used all over, and it's actually an excellent concept. It's a 1-year residency requirement. So basically what you say is, well, backing up a second, all of our homeless people are tracked. They're in a system. Most of them, almost all of them, get some form of government aid. So they get a check. Well, that check gets mailed somewhere, so they know where that homeless person is. They know how to get their checks, and they know what county they're in. And so you could basically pass a rule that said, if you haven't lived in Placer County for at least a year, and again, they can prove that, you don't get any services in the county. So you might as well go somewhere else. And we have enough beds that we can enforce the no camping regulation. And what happens is when people come in and they try to camp, you pick them up and you make it very inconvenient for camping. You bring them to the campus. They're allowed to stay in the shelter for a few days. And if they don't get in the program, you move them to their home county. I mean, if they're not a resident, they get no services anyway, but you get them out of that shelter and you get them back to their own county. And a lot of counties have been doing this. And so we literally would take them where they go. And you just make it very inconvenient to stay in the county if you're not part of the program. There's no feeding programs outside of the campus. There's no other services outside the campus. And so you pretty much set it up, you're in the program, or you might as well go somewhere else because we're not going to make it convenient for you. And these types of programs work, and they're fantastic. And there's also a really good dollar, economically it makes sense, because one homeless person, according to HUD in Placer County, is between $45,000 and $50,000 a year is the cost to the county. And if you can get them into a program like this, it brings it down to $12,000 to $15,000. I don't know what the latest figures are, but we're talking like $100 million a year savings if you've got 800 homeless people. And so that's it's actually a monetary economic good idea to have a program like this. And then the other big thing is these types of campuses with a wraparound, they have an 85% success rate of restoring people back into the community. So it's just a good idea. So that's probably the one I'm most supportive of. There isn't really a plan B out there. We just try to, there was a hotel purchase recently. The county bought a hotel in Roseville, and they'll be putting homeless in there. So they'll be formally homeless. And again, and that's great, but you don't have the wraparound services, and you don't have enough people there that you could put all the programs there. And so it's just kind of like you're getting more hodgepodge, and you're not really fixing a problem. You're kind of hiding it a little bit or perpetuating it a little bit. So we have a neat opportunity. We don't have the drastic problem like Sacramento does, or San Francisco or LA. Ours is actually fixable at the moment, as long as we can tackle it pretty soon. It's literally in my backyard. I'll be able to look out my backyard across the field, and that's where the county property starts. I'm right on the western edge right now. Hillsdale, the city of Roseville has always been supportive of a college coming. We've had liberal colleges. This one's a conservative college. It's another menu item for college opportunities. The good thing about universities coming in, to the borders of cities or in cities, is they build up your economy. It stops a brain drain, so your kids aren't going off to college somewhere else, getting jobs there and not coming back. Sorry. So having another choice in the counties is economically a really good idea. And again, it's a private college, so people can choose to go there or not. But the idea for helping build industry, keeping intelligence in your own community, and just the economics that come around a college, just to support a college, and with food and all kinds of different services. Those are always really positive things for communities. So, again, I think that's a plus for Placer County. Well, first you got to build it. So RENA has, the RENA numbers that have been applied to our various cities and counties are kind of scary. There's a lot of affordable housing that we have to build according to the state. And the city of Roseville's doing it. We've always enforced the 10% affordability regulations, but now they're expecting even more on top of that. So we've identified areas of town where we can do overlays to meet the requirements that they're giving us. The county's a lot further behind. They have, and we've been filling those RENA numbers. We've been filling in different affordable levels at the city level, but at the county level, they're far behind. There are so many, sorry, I'm getting calls here. There's just a lot of catching up to do at the county level. And if anybody needs to be building affordable housing, you would think that would be the county. Because they should be helping us at the city level, helping bring some of that workforce. My own children are a good example. When my children left home, they couldn't afford to live in our own city. They had to get their first apartment out of the city, and some of them have come back. My youngest daughter just bought a house in Roseville, which is a big task, but that's getting to be harder and harder. And she has a really good job that allows her to do that. But I think that affordable housing issue is really important that the county takes that seriously, and the staff hold those developers accountable to make sure they build it in, because we have some excellent developers in our community. And in the city, they're pretty cooperative. They do what they need to do, but I just don't see those numbers coming out of the county yet. So look forward to seeing that change. Well, ever since I was first elected in 2016, I think I've proven that I'm very good about connecting with my constituents. So I'm not going to be a Roseville guy. I'm going to be a county guy representing that district, and actually representing the whole county. I don't just represent District 5 in Roseville. I represent all of Roseville right now. And I'm happy to take on and help different problems throughout our city. And same thing at the county level. It's not going to be an issue if I live in one city and representing another. I will give it my full attention as well. The advantage that I have is Roseville is a full service city. We're the only one here. There's very few in the state. I mean, we have our own power company. We have our own everything. All the utilities are owned by our city, and our own police and fire. And at the county level, you also have health and human services, which we don't have in the cities. And that's the biggest department the county has. And so my service to Lincoln would be to try to help them. The county, the story in Lincoln is a sad story. The county and old city employees basically ripped off the city. The county took advantage of a tax share agreement and did not give them enough funding. And the city did such a horrible job of analyzing it, they let themselves get ripped off, basically. And so what happens is, as your city grows, there's a tax share with your property tax. A certain amount goes to the city, a certain amount stays with the county. Well, the county didn't give them enough. So every single house they add, you should be normally getting enough extra dollars in your general fund to grow your police and fire with the city's growth. But they're getting decimated. The bigger Lincoln got, the worse, the more decimated their police and fire got, because they didn't have enough funding coming in. That's kind of the basic premise. And what the county needs to do is they need to renegotiate that tax share and make it fair. Right now, the county is giving them some extra funding to try to help them, but really they need to fix the problem and give them what's a fair deal. And again, they should be a synergistic partner with the cities instead of an antagonistic taking advantage of the cities. That's been a huge problem in Lincoln. And I understand that, and that's something I'm willing to push back on. So I could be a big asset for Lincoln, because I know how that should work. And we've had to battle with the county on issues too. And I really think the county needs to change to the point where they're an open partner. They're very transparent about their finances, and they can have a fair tax share where it's a win-win for everybody, instead of let's see who can get the best deal and like a competition. It just amazes me that we're still having those kinds of issues. Yeah. And Robert's a good guy. I've known Robert Wygant for many years, and he's retiring. This is a neat opportunity, I think, for the county, having a fresh viewpoint, having a city viewpoint. I definitely have a lot of energy for working with the community, getting out there, being part of the community. I'm doing that as a candidate right now. I have been meeting with farmers and tons of people out in the rural areas, just learning the issues, learning the challenges they've had. finding ideas on economic growth that can actually help, because we have a huge agricultural economy but it's just a small percentage compared to the residential. So builders have the majority of the revenue, and so they get a lot of attention. I understand that, but our rural people feel like they've been neglected. And I think this is a neat opportunity, especially from the economic side. We could do some neat things to help the economy out in the rural areas. And I also think just having fresh eyes in me, I have the kind of personality I really want to learn, I want to understand. And so I'll be very much integrated into all the constituents out there, talking with, the county doesn't have full jurisdiction inside the cities run themselves. The county is the partner over that. They have the rural areas. And so I'd be working with the elected officials in Lincoln and Roseville, and trying to help, how can we serve you better? What can we do to make changes? And already some of the feedback I've been getting, there's a lot of opportunity, I think, to just kind of move us forward a little bit better.
So why should people vote for you?
Well, I'm proven, so I'm not making empty promises. I've actually walked the talk, and I've shown that. I think if you go to my website on my campaign page, I don't just have a list of people from my same party in there. It's not just a bunch of other electeds listed like maybe some competitors have. I actually have testimonials from leaders throughout the county talking about, and it's a very similar theme. Sorry, my dogs are getting in on it. That I do represent people, that I work with both Democrats and Republicans, that I don't just talk to one party. I'm different that way. And even my own campaign team, I have 8 directors that help run my campaign. 4 of them are Republicans, 3 of them are Democrats, and no party preference. It's a bipartisan, it's really a nonpartisan campaign. We are out trying to serve everybody, and I've done that in the past. And so I think that's somebody really needs to look at who they're electing, because there's a real difference between the 3 of us. There's very different attributes. And I think I bring a solid business background. I bring a proof that I serve my constituents. And again, read those testimonies. They have a very common theme, that I am out there and I actually respond, and I'm transparent and honest about things. And my financial backers vary all over. I don't have, it's not a whole list of developers, or it's quite a variety of different people supporting me. And so I do hope that the voters take a look at all 3 of us and really weigh what we bring to the table.